My graduation dinner was supposed to be harmless. A few awkward photos, a cheap place downtown, my parents putting on their "we are totally a normal family" mask for a couple of hours. I kept my expectations low. I just wanted to get through it without leaving the table in tears. We had barely been seated for 10 seconds when everything cracked open. My grandfather, the only person who had ever looked at me like I was worth being proud of, lifted his glass, turned toward me and asked, in a calm, clear voice, "Hannah, are you using the $850,000 I set aside for your education?" The fork slipped right out of my aunt's hand and hit the plate with a loud clatter. My parents went rigid. And me, I felt the whole room tilt, because I had never, in my entire life, heard a single word about any fund. Before I walk you into everything that happened after that one sentence, imagine this with me for a second. You are sitting at your own graduation dinner. You have been working yourself half sick to get through school. You are drowning in loans, scraping by on tips, believing your parents when they say, "We wish we could help, but we just don't have it." Then someone you love casually exposes a truth that makes your entire life feel like it has been built on a lie. That was the moment my life split into before and after. Growing up, my family looked balanced from the outside, but it never felt that way from the inside. I was the older daughter, the one who learned early how to manage herself. My younger sister, Megan, was the golden one. The child my parents truly believed was going to do something big with her life. They never said I would not. They just never said I would. And in our house, their silence about you meant more than any compliment. By middle school, the pattern was crystal clear. Megan got opportunities. I got responsibility. When Megan struggled in math, my parents hired a tutor and sat with her to review her homework. When I struggled, they said it was a good chance to build discipline. When she turned 16, she got a used car, a bow on the hood, and a small family party. When I turned 16, I got a planner and a long speech about learning to be independent. I was not furious back then. I was confused. I wondered why needing help made me feel like an inconvenience. College only stretched the gap wider. I waited tables at a cafe near campus, trying to memorize regular orders while my brain still held space for assignments and exam dates. My clothes always smelled like espresso and cleaning chemicals. Sleep was whatever was left after work and school. Any time I hinted that I needed help with rent, books, even a small emergency, my mom would sigh and say, "Hannah, you know how tight things are." My dad would nod along like there was some invisible rulebook only they could read. They always added the same line, like a script, "We wish we could do more." Yet somehow, the budget was never too tight for Megan. She got help with her apartment deposit. Help with her car. Help with a business idea that turned into a year-long project she eventually abandoned. Anytime I tried to point out the imbalance, I felt childish, greedy, dramatic. So I swallowed it. I told myself I was strong enough to carry my own weight, and that was just how things were. There were warning signs, looking back. One afternoon I stopped by my parents' house and passed through the garage. There was a plastic bin pushed behind old camping gear, and on top of it, an envelope with my grandfather's name printed clearly in the corner. I reached for it, curious. Before I could even turn it over, my mom appeared in the doorway and moved faster than I had ever seen her move. She snatched it from my hand and clutched it to her chest. "That is old paperwork," she said, too quickly. "Don't worry about it." She shoved it into a cabinet she usually kept locked and plastered on a tight smile. Something in my chest flickered. A small, sharp thought appeared, she is lying. I pushed it down. I had years of practice doing that. My grandfather, my dad's father, lived in another city. He was quiet, thoughtful, and never spoke just to hear his own voice. Every birthday card he sent me growing up had the same handwritten line at the bottom, "Keep going. I believe in you." I had no idea he was quietly planning for my future. I had no idea he had trusted my parents to guard something that had my name on it. In the days before my graduation dinner, my parents' energy turned strange. My mom kept watching me when she thought I was not looking, those tight, nervous glances that disappeared the second I met her eyes. My dad, who was usually emotionally offline, grew weirdly talkative. He asked about my rent, my job, my course load. It was not caring, it was collecting data, and at the time I told myself I was being paranoid. Then Megan rolled up one Sunday in a brand new SUV. Leather seats, Huge touch screen, the kind of car that makes your stomach drop just looking at the payment. How did you afford that? I asked. She laughed lightly. My business investment finally paid off. She left it at that. No details. My mom cut in fast with a compliment about her hair and her shoes, anything to redirect the conversation away from the money. The questions stayed. They sank down inside me, heavy, like stones. The night before graduation I heard my parents arguing in the kitchen. Their voices were low but sharp enough to cut through the hallway. We cannot keep this quiet forever, my dad said. My mom hissed back, she does not need to know. Megan needs stability. Hannah will manage. She always does. I froze. The word she hung in the air like smoke. I knew they meant me. I knew they were hiding something. I just did not know yet that what they were hiding used to belong to me. I did not sleep much. I kept seeing the envelope in the garage. Hearing my mom say, she does not need to know. Watching Megan slide into her new SUV. By morning, I was exhausted and wired at the same time. Graduation should have felt hopeful. Instead, it felt like walking toward a cliff I could not see. At the ceremony, Megan was all sunshine, insisting on taking photos with me. She wrapped her arm around my shoulders, smiled for the camera, and whispered, "Big deal for you, huh?" Her tone sounded sweet. Underneath, something about it felt rehearsed. My mom fussed over Megan's hair. My dad bragged about Megan's business hustle to another parent while I stood there, adjusting my gown. It hurt, but it was not new. I tried to focus on the reason we were there. My graduation dinner was supposed to be the easy part. Basic chain restaurant, cheap menu, my parents pretending they had carried me through these 4 years instead of watching from a distance. But when we walked in and I saw my grandfather sitting at a table near the back, everything inside me sat up straight. No one had told me he was coming. My mom's face went rigid. My dad let out a thin, nervous laugh. Megan froze for half a second, then pasted on a smile. The air shifted. I did not have words for it then, but my body knew. Something was about to break. Grandpa stood up, gave me a hug that felt like an anchor, and told me he was proud of me. Really proud, in that way where you feel the truth in their chest, not just in the sentence. We all sat. Menus opened. Water glasses clinked. Small talk floated around the table like static. Then Grandpa lifted his glass, looked straight at me, and asked, "Hannah, sweetheart, I have been meaning to ask you something important. Are you using the $850,000 I set aside for your education?" The restaurant went dead. My aunt's fork hit her plate with a loud metallic crack. My mom stopped breathing. My dad blinked like someone had hit him between the eyes. Megan's fingers went still on her phone. "I am sorry," I said, because my brain could not catch up. "What fund?" Grandpa's smile fell away. He looked at my face, then slowly turned his head toward my parents. "You never told her," he said. And that was the moment I knew every weird look, every envelope, every tense whisper in the kitchen had not been in my head. They really had been hiding something from me. Something big. Grandpa's eyes hardened in a way I had never seen. "You do not know about it," he repeated, more to himself than to me. "Interesting." My mom shook her head so fast it looked painful. "Dad, she must have forgotten. We talked about this. We told her a long time ago, remember, Hannah? You were probably busy with exams." I stared at her. "No," I said quietly. "You never told me anything." Grandpa's jaw flexed. His voice dropped a little lower. "That is strange," he said, "because the bank says someone has been using it." The words did not feel real at first. They just hung above the table like a storm cloud. My dad choked on his water. My mom's napkin slipped from her hand and fell to the floor. Megan's screen dimmed as her fingers froze. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. Grandpa leaned forward. "For months now," he said, "there have been large withdrawals from that fund. Regular ones. And not a single one of them came from you." My dad finally found his voice. "Dad, you are misunderstanding the situation." Grandpa turned his head slowly and looked at him like he was a stranger. "No," he said, calm and cold. "I called the bank. Twice. I asked who accessed it. They gave me names. None of them were Hannah Cole. My stomach dropped. Grandpa looked back at me. "Hannah, Did you ever sign anything giving your parents permission to manage that money on your behalf? No, I whispered. Never. I did not even know it existed. Megan shifted in her chair. Maybe the bank messed up, she said, too fast. You know how they are. They are always losing something. Remember that time? Grandpa cut her off with one look. She clamped her mouth shut. He rested his hands on the table. They were shaking, just slightly. Tell me the truth, he said to my parents. Now. No one at the restaurant was pretending not to listen anymore. Conversations had died at neighboring tables. I could feel eyes on us from every direction. My dad's shoulders slumped. My mom stared at her lap like she could fall through it if she focused hard enough. We had no choice, my dad said finally. His voice trembled. We needed help. Things were tight. Mom rushed in. Megan was struggling, she said. She needed stability. Rent, her car payment, her business, groceries. Hannah always figured it out. We thought she would be okay. We always planned to explain eventually. Megan's head whipped toward them. Why are you saying my name? She snapped. You are making it sound like this is my fault. My grandfather's face went from hurt to something close to disgust. I trusted you, he said to my parents. I trusted you with her future. I did not give that money to you. I gave it to her. You signed papers saying you would protect it. Megan slammed her palm on the table. Why does it matter? She burst out. It is still family money. It is not like we spent it on strangers. It helped all of us. I felt sick. What did you use it for? I asked. My voice sounded quiet, but it did not shake. Silence. Then my dad exhaled, long and defeated. Down payment on Megan's condo, he said. Her car. Some business expenses. Bills. Things we needed. Some emergencies. Emergencies, I repeated. Images flashed through my head. Megan's Instagram photos. Beach trips. New furniture. Spa days. Brunches. You mean vacations and nail appointments and a brand new SUV. My mom started crying. Ugly, panicked sobs. But it was the kind of crying that comes from being caught, not from remorse. Grandpa shook his head slowly. You stole from your own daughter, he said, voice tight. You stole from me. And you lied, over and over. Megan's eyes filled with tears, but there was no softness in them, just anger. I needed that help, she said. You always said you believed in me, Grandpa. I thought you wanted me to succeed. Hannah is used to working. She is good at it. There it was. The truth they had built their choices on. I was used to doing without, so they decided I did not need what had already been promised to me. Grandpa turned back to me. His face softened for half a second. You deserved a future that was not built on debt and exhaustion, he said. I thought I had given that to you. Instead, they turned it into a private bank for your sister. I was waiting for myself to explode. To scream, to flip the table, to run out of that place and never look back. None of that happened. Instead, everything inside me went quiet. I watched my parents crumble. I watched Megan glare at me like I had ruined her life by simply finding out what already belonged to me. And somewhere in that silence, something in me solidified. I will not let you take anything else from me, I said. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just clearly enough that every person at that table heard it. Grandpa squeezed my shoulder. You will not have to, he said. He pushed his chair back and stood up. Tomorrow morning. He told me, you and I are going to the bank. Then we are going to see my attorney. Mom gasped like he had slapped her. Dad, please, do not do this. We are family. We can fix it quietly. You had years, he said, looking at her like he did not recognize her. You chose to fix your problems with her future. I am choosing differently. My dad stared down at his empty plate. Megan muttered something under her breath about everything always being about me now. The illusion of our family, the one they had been protecting for years, shattered under the yellow restaurant lights. People pretended to go back to their meals. But you could feel it. The story was already leaving the table, walking out of that room in whispers and side glances. That night I went back to my tiny apartment, sat on the edge of my bed, and stared at the wall for a long time. I had spent years believing I was simply unlucky, that life was harder for me because I was built to handle it. I thought my parents really could not help. Now I knew the truth. They could have. They chose not to. They had stolen something meant for me, spent it, and then let me drown. And the worst part was how calm I felt realizing it. Not numb. Just done. The next morning, Grandpa was waiting for me outside the bank. He looked tired, older than I remembered, but steadier than anyone else in my life. Inside, everything was harsh light and quiet carpet. The branch manager led us to a small office and pulled up the account details on the screen. There it was. The fund with my name on it. The history of deposits. The total I had never known existed. The withdrawals. Line after line after line. Dates that matched Megan's condo timeline. Her car purchase. The months she bragged about, focusing on her business, while I added extra shifts at the cafe to cover my rent. The manager confirmed what Grandpa already knew. The authorized users on this account, she said carefully, are your parents. They accessed the funds. All documented here. Grandpa's jaw clenched. Freeze the account, he said. Effective immediately. No more withdrawals. I want printed statements of everything. The manager nodded and sent the request. I sat there, staring at my name on the top of the page, watching my future in black and white. My chest hurt, but not in the way it used to. This was not the ache of confusion. It was the sting of clarity. From the bank, we went straight to his attorney. The office smelled like paper and old leather. The attorney listened quietly while Grandpa explained what had happened. He did not interrupt. When we finished, he looked at me first, not at my grandfather. Hannah, he said, you have been the victim of financial abuse and misappropriation. They used money that was legally and ethically set aside for you without your knowledge or consent. We can pursue restitution and restructure what remains so they can never touch it again. The words felt heavy but strangely precise. Victim. Abuse. Restitution. I had never applied those words to my own life. I always thought I was just coping. He walked us through the plan. Recovery efforts. Legal letters. A new fund in my name alone with proper legal protections and oversight. New safeguards so no one, not even family, could access it without my explicit permission. That evening, Grandpa came back to my little apartment with takeout and sat at my small table like it was the most important place in the world. I am sorry, he said quietly, for trusting the wrong people with your future. You do not owe me an apology, I told him. You tried to help me. They chose not to. He nodded, but his eyes still held a deep sadness. I am going to fix as much of this as I can, he said. But I cannot give you back the years you worked yourself to the bone thinking you were alone. I did not cry. I just breathed. For the first time in a long time, breathing felt like something solid under my feet. In the weeks that followed, my parents cycled through every strategy they knew. First came the calls. Voicemails stuffed with apologies, excuses, sobbing explanations about how they were under pressure, and overwhelmed, and did not know what else to do. Then came the revisionist history. You always said you did not want help, my mom claimed. You would have wasted the money anyway, my dad added in another message. Megan is just better with money. We thought it made more sense, they wrote. In a text. Every message twisted the truth a little more, trying to shift the weight back onto me. The old version of me would have tried to argue, tried to convince them to see the damage. This time, I did not argue at all. I let their words sit unanswered, tiny proof of why the boundary was necessary. Megan texted once. I did not steal, she wrote. Mom and Dad gave it to me. If you take it back, I will have to sell my condo. Are you seriously okay with ruining my life like that? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed one sentence. You ruined my future first. I hit send and muted the conversation. It was not about punishing them. It was about finally stepping out of the role they had written for me. The daughter who swallowed every injustice, who understood, who could be counted on to sacrifice quietly so Megan could stay comfortable. Grandpa's new fund gave me something I had never had before, stability. The ability to plan beyond the next paycheck. The option to take a job because I wanted it, not because I was desperate. But his honesty gave me something even bigger. Permission to protect myself, even from my own family. One afternoon, he called to tell me the legal work was done. The account had been locked. My parents had signed documents acknowledging what they had done. Restitution plans were in place. It is not everything, he said, But it is yours. Fully yours. I thanked him. Then I sat on the floor of my apartment, leaned my head against the side of my bed, and let the quiet wash over me. For once, silence did not feel like abandonment. It felt like a clean page. My parents still tell people it was all a misunderstanding. They tell relatives that Grandpa overreacted, that I was influenced by him, that it was just family money being shuffled around. I do not correct them. I do not argue. I have stopped trying to convince people who benefit from the lie. What I did instead was this: I stepped back. I created distance. I answered only when it was truly necessary, and even then, I kept my words simple and factual. No more explanations. No more begging them to see me. My relationship with my grandfather changed. 2. We grew closer, not because of the money, but because of what he chose to do when he saw the truth. He did not tell me to forgive and forget. He did not tell me family is family, and ask me to lie to myself. He believed me. He took my side openly when it cost him comfort. That is real love. Now, when I look at my student loan statements, they no longer feel like a life sentence. There is a plan to pay them down. There is a safety net. There is a future that does not depend on whether Megan wants a new car. More importantly, when I think about my family, the old narrative is gone. I am not the ungrateful daughter for asking why everything was stacked against me. I am not dramatic for feeling betrayed. I am not selfish for refusing to let them take more. I am simply someone who finally saw what was happening and decided to stop absorbing the damage. If any part of this feels familiar, if you have ever found out the people who were supposed to protect you were spending your future like it was their emergency fund, hear me clearly: you are not crazy. You are not asking for too much. You are allowed to draw a line, even if it means some people never forgive you for it. My parents lost access to something they thought they owned. I gained something I wish I had learned years earlier. My life, my boundaries, and my future are mine. And they do not get to touch that ever again.